All right, hey, here we are, and I'm joined this time with Vikram Shankar. And dude, I've been saying pronouncing your name kind of wrong on a few of my videos because when I first was talking about you and your work with me, I was doing the old English sort of over pronunciation, like going Vikram Shankar, and then I
Dude,
saw.
I've heard it all at this point, so I guarantee you cannot bastardize it harder
Yeah,
than
it's like
some of the things I've heard.
the Haken Harken thing that keeps
Yeah, Hagen
cropping.
Haken. My dad's been saying Haken for 9 years now, so
That's
it is
it.
what it
I'll
is.
continue to do so. But yeah, then I saw a video of you, I don't know, advertising your Patreon or something. You can, hey, I'm Vikram Shankar. Oh, yeah, that's definitely how I should be pronouncing it.
The irony is that's actually still wrong because it's actually
Really?
Vikram Shankar.
Okay, here we go.
I never do that because most people can't get it right. So it's honestly, less agony for all of us if I just go with something simple. And then I just do Vic because no one can mess that up.
Fix the one. Yeah, that's the easiest thing. Like to go over one syllable. Uh, I don't know. Like it's just like Bono or something. Something simple.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that works, Vic. We'll stick to Vic.
Right
Hey,
on.
thanks for joining me, man. So I'm doing this little series with the contributors for my new album, my debut solo album, on which you're contributing on keyboards, piano, orchestral arrangements. But in fact, that it's much more than that. You've actually kind of put your heart and soul into this record as much as I have, and that's something I really appreciate. So I just wanted to start this off by giving you a big thank you, and obviously
Oh yeah.
this is a platform for you to kind of I don't know, tell the world about your experiences on this record, and kind of we can
Sure.
do a deeper dive into some of the tracks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
dude, I'm
yeah.
truly honored to be on it. I mean, I've been listening to Haken for 9 years now. It's been a big part of my, who I am as a musician. A lot of things that I do in my, my own outlets is very heavily informed by what you and the rest of the guys in the band
Mm.
have been doing for so long. So it's like it's kind of coming full circle for me to be able to, come together with you and work on this. And in some strange way, it's almost like we had a musical kinship that I didn't even anticipate
Right.
because of all the non-progressive stuff that we're both into that I really,
Yeah.
didn't even know that you were so into. So it's like we came together in a way that I, exceeded expectations.
Yeah, this was my outlet to really explore that stuff, and I mean
Yeah.
we'll probably touch on it later a little bit, but we talked about our shared love for Bruce Springsteen, for example,
Sure.
which is prevalent in one of the tracks, and yeah, various other things, even stuff like Anathema and Coldplay, which
Yeah.
again are influences that cropped into this record, and among all the other stuff. So yeah, it was really cool. I want to talk about how I sort of discovered you in a way, because obviously that was a good segue from you talking about Haken, because I think it was a Facebook video or maybe it was a YouTube video, I forget, but you did some sort of medley of the Affinity
Yeah.
music, or was it the Mountain? Can you remind me?
I've
I
actually done both. I don't know which you saw. You
I,
probably eventually seen both,
I
but
think I saw
I've done
both
both.
actually, because I sort of
Yeah.
I thought it was remarkable. I was really touched by it, first of all, and just the beauty of your playing, very emotive. That was the thing I got
Thank
from
you.
it mostly, and yeah, the way you arranged the tracks. I think it was the Affinity one where you went through several different tracks, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
did it for both, but I think the Affinity one was probably much better. It's probably the one that you saw because I had a bigger, social media
yeah,
presence when
right,
I did that.
maybe. Where were
But
you at when you did the Mountain one? Were you still studying, or what was
I was studying when I did both,
right,
and probably both were done at Oberlin Conservatory in the practice rooms,
right,
which is actually exactly how I met Tom England as well.
cool,
Was I did in the Oberlin practice rooms. I did an Evergrey video. So,
nice,
it's like I appreciate you saying that you appreciated the emotion behind it because Haken is very technical and I love technical music, but what stood out to me from the beginning was the emotional core of what you guys were doing. And when I fell in love with the mountain, It was the path, and because
Yeah.
it's there, that hit me, before anything else. So when I play on the piano, I'm not the most technical player in the world. I'm not the most technical player you've ever worked with, for that matter. But for me, the emotion comes first and foremost. And I think on this record, we're able to strip back some of the veneer that can obscure the emotional content sometimes and really put forth the emotion first and foremost,
Yeah,
which I thought was really cool. I loved that.
that was absolutely key for me on this record, and a big reason why I chose you. But the truth of it was, when I reached out to you initially, I'd only intended to get you on doing a couple of piano solos. I mean, really, I didn't know in what
Yeah.
capacity we would work together. You obviously showed a lot of passion to work on other tracks, and we worked out an arrangement.
Yeah.
But yeah, initially I had you penciled in for Catcher in the Rye. I think Young at Heart, there's the piano solo
Right, right.
at the end, and the Phoenix, the big track, which
Hmm.
I definitely needed help with, because
Yeah.
I'd written this whole sequence, but really didn't have the confidence or the skill set really to play it. Because what I tend to do when I'm writing piano music is I'll play it in and I'll get the intention there, and then I'll
Right.
most definitely fluff a bunch of notes, and
Hmm.
in MIDI I'll move things and make it sound as it should. So in the end, when obviously the demos that I would have sent you, that's
Right.
how I would have arrived at this stuff. Um,
Yeah, and you do magical things with MIDI.
but yeah,
And I've worked with so many records that way where people do things on MIDI, and sometimes I listen and it's like, why do you even want me? It's like it sounds so good. And a lot of the stuff that you did as well, like the even the string work was
mm,
like, really well thought out, really thoughtfully constructed. It's like the kind of string demoing that frankly I'm not used to. I'm used to people just sitting down at the keyboard and going,
all
and
right.
that's their string part, and I have to turn that into some kind of arrangement that
Mm.
sounds polished and professional. But you had all these counterpoint ideas and all these more intricate things that I was really impressed by, and it actually made my life both easier and harder because I had a good foundation to work from, but I had to make it a meaningful improvement so that you weren't wasting your money. So it's like,
Oh, absolutely not. No, you definitely achieved that, and we'll probably look at a few moments a bit
for sure.
later, because I think in particular, Grounded and people obviously I'm not sure when I'm putting this video out, but it's likely before the album release,
Yeah.
and everyone's heard Grounded by now, and yeah, the string arrangement on that track is just absolute chef's kiss.
That was a lot of fun.
And you definitely elaborated on my ideas, which were probably just sent to you as like stereo channels, a couple of parts, and
Yeah, yeah.
you
I
you
mean,
yeah,
I had to
you arranged them
transcribe.
into a whole
Uh,
orchestra basically. That's impressive.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the transcription process was probably the hardest part because it's not as simple as transcribing a few triads or something. I was trying to really capture these ideas because there was a lot of things in there that were really beautiful, and I thought it would be a shame if I just scrapped it all and I started from the ground up, but I missed all these nuances that
Mm.
made the song special. So, a lot of time went into making sure that all these ideas in your demos in the stereo file, I captured what I wanted to, and if there were things I could tweak, to make them a little bit more traditional, because I really wanted a traditional orchestral sound on this, not kind
Yeah,
of a Hans Zimmery sort of thing, but a more classical vibe. So I just kind of transmuted what you did into that sound.
yeah. We talked a little bit about that, didn't we, beforehand going in, and yeah, the kind of organic sounds we wanted.
Yeah,
Should we bring up some music and maybe
sure.
have a look at? I thought since we were talking about solos, we could talk about Catcher in the Rye and sort of how you recorded the live piano and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Maybe
let's
maybe
get
that would
into
be
it.
interesting. Yeah.
Let's do it. Um, Here we are. Um, so I have the guide tracks that you sent me, and I think it's probably only worth referencing. I
Oh,
have a vocal stem.
yeah. I wonder if people would be interested to hear sort of demo versus final.
Sure, yeah.
Hear
Yeah. I can
the
actually
seismic difference between the quality.
Yeah, because I have the final master
Oh, you do? Right.
as well.
Cool.
So we can actually A/B that, which would be pretty cool. So this was the very first thing you sent me, because you sent me like 14 MP3 demos, like really rough, just to give me an idea of how everything sounded, and it was something like this. Real quick, I want to see why I'm having all these system overloads.
Yeah, no problem.
I did not have those beforehand.
We were talking about this just before we hit the record button. For anyone watching,
Yeah.
We're used to seeing this screen of our project freezing, and
I'm actually going to try turning off the frozen tracks.
always being brave.
Freezing doesn't seem to have helped. So
anyone into
when in doubt, try the other thing.
This was the technique I was using for recording guitars, was freezing everything because my computer was just crashing all the time. Anyone into music production probably going through the same experiences.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm normally ending up freezing everything as I go, but the thing is, I end up tweaking MIDI really late in the process, because I'll actually show that when I write in a MIDI part, this is not quantized.
Right.
I'm playing everything at different times. And with this particular patch, it's like some things have to be more off than others depending on the legato. But then this one is a different amount off.
Yeah.
So I have to actually tweak everything really late so that it sounds right, meaning that freezing tracks is kind of a ridiculous thing to get into, because then I have to unfreeze everything. And then the amount of time I spend unfreezing and refreezing, I might as well just suck up the overloads at that point. But let's see if this works any better.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'll drink from my Happy Cat mug. Cheers.
Fantastic.
Just a classic cup of British tea, basically.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Coffee with cardamom here.
There you go. True American.
All right, let's see.
Yeah.
So I guess was that live drums or?
No, actually, that was all programmed. Obviously, with this being demoed in lockdown, I don't actually have an access to any sort of drum recording here at home.
Yeah.
So well, that was pretty much everything apart from guitars and vocals, just programmed in MIDI, basically. With it does sound pretty beefy, doesn't it? Those drums.
Yeah. I mean, actually, and it's well programmed too with the intricacies. So like, you could have fooled me, to be honest.
Right.
And then I actually recorded over, I guess, this premix, which would have been all the live instruments, but not the finalized mix. And I think the vocals, I don't know if you'd done the final vocals yet.
By that
I'm
point,
not sure.
Probably not by that point. Yeah, slightly different, but you can tell the differences. With if you A/B the demo and the final, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit more heft to it, but
yeah.
Still not quite at the final version, which is right.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's not coming through my. That's not coming through. We're not hearing that.
Oh.
For some reason.
That would be why. What a
So,
great mix. Seriously, it sounds so good.
Kareem would be glad to hear that. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, he killed it. It's like so organic but powerful at the same time. It's like it's perfect for what this has to be.
I do wonder because obviously I like to make final decisions on this stuff. Normally in a band environment, it's very, it's the opinions are
Hmm.
shared around and it's
Yeah, right.
done a bit diplomatically. But yeah, no, that's good news. And so I want to talk about this chorus because obviously my demo didn't really include any keys. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you really elevated that chorus to another level. Really, it might be worth just isolating your parts and
Yeah.
hearing what you added to it.
Right. So I did a fair bit of enhancement here.
Yeah. Say that
No
again.
no orchestra, but a fair
Right.
bit of more traditional keys. And we mentioned Bruce Springsteen earlier. But this
Yeah.
was my my Roy Battan moment for sure. He's one of my favorite piano players.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
especially thinking of like the end of Thunder Road or something with those big da-din, da-din, da-din. I think I did literally that rhythm at some point. Kind of
Yeah. Thunder Road is a
tip of
big.
the hat.
Yeah, definitely. It's
So I we did this live piano session, which was really important to us to have a live piano. I think we talked pros and cons whether we should do a live piano or not. And for most things I do, I actually don't do a live piano. When I do sessions, I normally do not.
right.
I think a lot of clients like the flexibility of MIDI, being able to tweak things. Oh, I hate this one note.
True.
Well, I can just delete it and it's gone. But for this style of music, where everything had to feel organic, a live piano just it totally made the difference because I don't know, you can feel it. You can feel that it's real. It actually doesn't sound quite as good as a software piano because software pianos have this impeccable fidelity. Everything from like 20 hertz to 30,000 is like perfect, and the stereo image is a mile wide, and it's like no real piano actually sounds like that. So I think you can tell that in the arrangement. So first I'll just play the piano that I did here. Um,
Oh boy, it's just beautiful. And those extra notes you putting in the higher register, accenting, what it was doing rhythmically was that came from you. That was just a beautiful addition.
it's pure Roy, really,
Yeah.
because Roy has this way of taking a crazy dense arrangement, which all the E Street Band stuff is. It's super dense, 3 guitars, chock full, 2 keyboards, and then he just pokes these little holes with the high piano. Right where there's a little space, he'll just kind of decorate it. And
Yeah.
you can only pick a few notes to fit in that spot. So he picks the perfect notes every time, something that I was really inspired by,
Absolutely.
these counter melodies. And then synths and organs are the rest of the arrangement. For any keyboard nerds out there, I was using the Arturia. Great plugins. I actually think Diego uses these, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Oh, absolutely, he does. Yeah.
Yeah, the Arturia stuff is amazing. And then I have some synths, and I don't even remember what they are, actually. So we can go through a process of discovery here.
Yeah.
'Cause I have no idea what this is.
Should really know what's on my own album.
80s as heck.
Exactly.
But I love that. It fills it out so nicely. I mean, because there's a little modulation in all these things. It's all over the album. Is these synth pads
Exactly.
that you feel them more than you hear them, but they're really important.
Oh yeah. I remember going through these tracks sort of one by one when you sent them, and like Yep, absolutely. This is just exactly what it needs. I can't.
Exactly, and
I,
you
I,
don't need to hear it. You just need to feel it.
yeah, yeah, totally.
And then there were some organs in here. This is also very and
Lovely.
all that together just makes things sound big. I mean,
Yeah,
it's just all these little details, the vibrato in the organ, the swipes, and all that. It adds energy, and
totally, totally.
it's almost irrelevant whether you can hear it. It really doesn't matter because it just adds fatness,
Yeah, it's the
and
sum of its
that's what's
parts in the end,
important.
isn't it? Yeah. No, he did an amazing job on that. That was superb. I
Yeah,
remember
thank you.
I remember being quite fussy about on the piano. This is like some of the trills and little runs that you added in, little decorations.
Yeah, we went through the solo. We did a couple passes through the solo. I
Yeah,
remember.
I was getting
I really,
WhatsApp messages with some audio like this,
yeah,
like this. It's
yeah.
cool.
It's funny.
It's,
I started. I actually show you. I think
it was the next best thing of like being in the room with you. Was having
yeah, yeah.
that
We were able to get
communication.
through it no problem in the end. But I transcribed the solo. That's here
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
because you had done like a demo solo, I think,
Mhm.
like a placeholder solo that I was mostly
Yeah.
faithful to, with a
Yeah.
few added runs, like these kind of 16th note things here. But
Exactly.
this is
Yeah.
my shorthand, and it looks really stupid if you know how to actually read music, because it's like I get too lazy to write rhythms, and I get too lazy to draw note heads in, so I just have all these little these little circles.
As long
I
as you.
started doing that in college when I didn't have time to actually formally write up music, but I
Right.
had to transcribe tons of things a day. So I used a lot of this shorthand when I was working on the record. I hand wrote almost everything, actually. We'll look at, like, when we get to Grounded and stuff, I'll show you the
Yeah.
handwritten notes I did for that as well, because
Amazing.
it's kind of funny to watch it go from this to
Yeah,
the
honestly,
final.
it's almost tidier to read than having. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it gets the point across, just the
Absolutely.
way it has to.
As long as you can
So
read it.
yeah, and that's what matters. And I can do it. I did that in a couple minutes. Whereas if I was laboriously going through everything, I'd be sitting there for half an hour, making it look pretty.
Yeah. Just last thing on the piano, the live piano recording.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of mic positioning or any techniques that you want to share with people
Yeah.
regarding the recording side of things?
It's actually really painless. I use the Earthworks PM40. It's a pair of Omni microphones. It's designed for piano,
Right.
and it's on a little bar, and there's two Omni microphones that you can kind of bend the goosenecks around to get the relative balance of string attack with resonance and all this kind of stuff. But you can't set it poorly.
Wow.
You want to
okay.
phase problems, you can pretty much just throw it on there, and it'll sound okay.
Okay.
And I got that because I don't have a treated room where I did this piano. It's my parents' living room, basically. So I really needed something that had really good rejection. It didn't pick up too much garbage from the wall reflections and everything. And it sounds really like dry and precise.
What I like is hearing all the woodwork and the pedal
Yeah,
movements and stuff. That you can't really get that on synthesized
exactly. I mean,
programs,
they
can't they?
sample it in there, but it I can always hear when it's predictable, and it's like you hear a buzz, but it's only on one note because they only sampled one note with the buzz. So that's like a telltale thing for me. And then
Yeah.
they don't have the chair noises.
Right.
The Earthworks microphones capture a lot of pedal noise,
Mhm.
and when the pedals go up and down, the entire body of the piano resonates.
Right.
And in a part like this, especially where I'm playing pretty quietly, and I'm guessing that Kareem probably compressed it pretty heavily in the mix. It, these things come out in a way that hopefully is not unpleasant. I think some people might find it unpleasant, but to me, it's what a piano sounds like.
Yeah,
We know what pianos sound like. We know what it sounds like when someone sits in front of us and plays. It sounds like this. I think most ears like to hear that.
And the good
So I
news
use
is
the Earthworks, and
sorry.
I use the Earthworks through the Focusrite ISA Duo. It is a 2-channel preamp, which is really clean. It doesn't really have a sound to it. It just makes it loud.
Yeah.
Straight into an interface. So it was a really simple setup, honestly, really simple, but it's all about the piano, the way that piano sounds. It was tuned like a day before I did this, so everything's nice and fresh. And
yeah, I think I was quite lucky
about
because
source
you were recording some other stuff at the same kind of time, weren't you? So you had that set up at the ideal time. Yeah.
Exactly. I was doing my solo album,
Yeah.
which still hasn't come out. I actually re-recorded it
Oh, really?
after this, and I'm probably going to re-record it again because I recently felted my piano, and that's a completely different sound.
Right.
So I'll probably redo it that way. But yeah, it was fresh. It was freshly tuned and ready to go. And like I said, it's about the source tones. So if you have a good source tone, you can make it work.
And the good news is you can't hear anyone sort of boiling the kettle or chopping up onions in the background. So you've
I had that happen.
You did?
On Silent Skies when I did the piano recordings for Nectar. Actually, in one of the intros of a song, my grandmother was washing dishes.
All right.
And when you listen to it really loud on headphones, you get your clink, 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 clink.
Amazing.
So I had to go redo that whole thing.
But no, you should have kept it in.
What you get with live instruments.
Yes. Capturing life. That's really cool, man. Should we move on to what do you want to talk about next? Should we do orchestral stuff, or do you want to talk about your sound design?
No, let's dive into some orchestra. We already talked about some string work a bit, so let's do it.
That's true. So I reckon. Do you want to do grounded?
Yeah, let's do grounded. So I'm going to disappear for a second while I.
That's okay. I'll keep talking. Kareem and I dug this up. Kareem and I dug this up on our little episode as well. We were just listening to the finale because we were talking about the mixing the orchestra a little bit, and yeah, it really connects. It's such a beautiful passage, the way it leads out the song, and I think you actually arranged it slightly different to how I demoed it. I think I ended it on a big bang, but or a big crescendo, but yours did the opposite. Actually, you ended up getting quieter and quieter.
Yeah,
so,
it tapered off exactly.
It tapered off exactly. Yeah, and so I preferred that. So yeah, again, like your contributions just brought so much to the record in these little details.
This one was a joy to do. Like absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned my lesson about freezing.
So do you have my demoed ones on there, just as a comparison?
I do. I should. These are the original project files,
right.
So I should have. Maybe it's hidden.
Because you really did elaborate on them in such a special way, yeah. And so it's worth hearing the intention versus what it should have been all along.
Yeah, I mean the process, the life cycle of this was really cool.
It just needed a real musician to take it apart.
Oh no, man, they were great to begin with. It was just a little bit of icing on the cake. Yeah, so let's listen to some of these demos as you sent them to me.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I just had this stereo file. I didn't have MIDI or stems or anything or multi-tracks. I just had this stereo stem.
Yeah, and I think that's all I did. I just think I recorded them into just one block thing. And that's how they came. Yeah, I didn't separate any instruments to begin with.
Yeah,
it was just strings pad,
Hit it. Yeah, so the reason I kept that playing was I wanted people to hear that in the demo version already there were all these counter
Mm.
melodies and all these little intricacies, and that was really important to me to how this chorus was working, because I felt like this chorus had a lot of these kind of open chords
Yeah.
and the melody was relatively simple, but you hear all these weaving lines in the
Yeah.
strings that were really important. And so, by all means, I did not want to scrap that. I wanted to kind of preserve it. So, let's see, one of these, yeah.
There we go.
So this is that chorus, and so this is the way that when I listened to the that stereo stem, I would listen through and I wrote out what I heard, just transcribing by ear all this stuff. And I wrote out all these kind of counter melodies.
He did the hard work for me.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
why not? So I kind of did all these micro arranging things as I listened, because you're doing a string pad in your demo.
Yeah.
And a real string player, real string orchestra is going to partition those into different instruments, so you can kind of see. What I do is I just, instead of writing a 5-line staff like you might do in music school, I just do a 2-line staff.
Right.
And I write these little things, VLA for viola, cello line enters here. And if anyone studied Bach music, where he writes kind of the 4-voice reduction to like choral music, for instance, this is basically how I do my string arrangements.
There you go.
Because it's easy for me to read, it's all in one place, and I can see how things relate. If you write it all in individual staves, you may not see the relationship between the notes, which is really important for the counterpoint. And if anyone studied counterpoint seeing this, you can tell that I'm actually pretty much following the counterpoint rules from a few hundred years ago for a reason, because I want this to feel traditional.
Yeah.
I don't want this to feel like a really bombastic Zimmer thing, although I love Hans Zimmer too. But for this, I wanted it to sound like it could have sounded like a 1750, latter era Bach piece or something. That was important to me. So I transcribed all this out. It's messy, but it works. And then I just played it like a performance. So I don't point and click. I just take, okay, I'm going to read the first violin line. And then I play it, with the mod wheel doing the expression and everything. And I want it to feel like a performance. I want this to feel like a 5-voice string orchestra actually performing with the ebb and flow and the in and out and even the timing inaccuracies. That's really important to me. So you get something special by playing each voice in a string orchestra rather than playing one voice, point and click the others in, quantize, all that stuff. So it's a very different approach than actually what I normally do.
It's definitely something I've learned from you, going forward with demos for subsequent future music. Is to take that approach and actually not just do one block string pad, and give you the hard time of dissecting it. Is to actually work by instrument. So yeah, it's not something. It's not something that I've studied. So
right.
That's a real learning. That's been a real learning curve for me, and how to demo stuff like this.
Yeah. And there are things that honestly I know because I studied orchestration in conservatory, and I know like sweet spots of instruments. For instance, when a viola soars over middle C, which is kind of high for a viola in an orchestral arrangement, when it plays over middle C, it gets this singing quality that is, when it cuts through an arrangement, it sounds really beautiful. So I actually did things like that where the viola part soars up high.
Yeah.
Because I think that sounds really beautiful in context. So anyways, I took that and I did this.
That's a lot more tracks.
Yeah. So, and then what I sent Kareem was these aux buses.
Right.
Where I sum all the bass into one track and all the cello into one track, because no one needs all this. But I layer a bunch of different libraries. So this is Cinesamples, Spitfire Hans Zimmer strings and East West Hollywood strings, and I layer them together
Hmm.
because they have different qualities. The Cinesamples one is a solo string, like a solo violin, so it has a certain purity to it. And then the Hans Zimmer strings is really lush, and the East West strings is very direct. So you put them all together, and you get like a super string kind of thing. And I actually did some woodwinds and brass too,
Yeah.
kind of tucked in there, flute, clarinet, bassoon, and
Hmm.
horn. And it's a very kind of like Mozartian orchestra, where the woodwinds and brass are not too bombastic. It's not blaring away, but it just makes the strings sound fatter.
Yeah.
So let's see. Why don't we play some of this?
Yeah. Let's
We'll
do it.
stop talking and we'll start listening.
Round of applause, everyone. No, that's it's. I remember, like being reduced to tears hearing that for the first time when you sent the file was over. And
That's really gratifying.
oh, it's just it's beautiful. It's beautiful isolated, which is why that decision to fade out the band
Right.
and leave that running was something I always wanted to happen. But I never imagined it would sound so beautiful. So yeah, I was truly grateful for that arrangement.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts on the record to do because one of my favorite things to do is to make this kind of orchestral music. Is this kind of orchestral music? It sounds very pure and honest. Like it's not hiding behind bombast and walls of drums and anything. It's just you strip it down to its bare essentials and you hear, I feel like the emotions speak louder that way when you really get rid of all the crap and you just hear, the music in its purest essence. And also a lot of those beautiful intricacies and the dissonances leaning into these dissonances come from your parts. You wrote those things. I changed some things, but most of what I changed was to make it fit in a 5-voice orchestra. Some parts where maybe I had to add a bass line because maybe it went down to 4 parts, or maybe it was too high for the viola, so I had to do a violin 2-part for it. But the basic ideas and really all the good stuff came from you. So,
I always feel like I get
round of applause to you for that one.
Thank you. I feel like I get like 80% there, and I just need that extra bit of expertise just to take it to the finish line, and that's really where the collaboration works.
And part of it's the sample libraries too. I mean, it's just like, the samples sound so good, and especially if you know what to do with them and the little tricks to make them really come to life, because you can't really treat them like you're programming a synth part. I mean, you have to really think about a completely different set of
Hmm.
parameters. But, you know, if you have good musical ideas, that's just, as you said, an extra 15% to take it there.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Oh, I think people would have really enjoyed hearing that isolated.
Yeah,
I can imagine it in a big kind of symphony hall one day.
exactly. I mean, it helps that I actually have a great sounding hall that I think I printed and I sent to Kareem. I don't know if he used
Right.
it, but I'm very attached to this Lexington Hall
Right.
reverb. I mean, it's part of my orchestral template. I don't do an orchestral track without it,
Hmm.
and it sounds like a real hall, exactly like what you say. It doesn't sound like a reverb plugin.
Hmm.
And so that's a really important part to the orchestral sound. Just like if you're doing drums, you need room mics. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah, sure. That's really cool. Hey, I enjoyed that. Um, so I reckon we should give viewers a little sort of sneak preview to the Phoenix, if you don't mind
Yes, please.
firing that up,
Yeah, yeah, let me get on that.
because this is kind of the song I've been hiding from everyone. But it's hey, it's nearly Friday, so um, but yeah, this is sort of the big epic song which I really needed your help with. Um, so we can have a look at that, have a little listen to some of it. Let's not reveal all of it, but I think yeah, that's going to be something people watching right now are going to enjoy. Meanwhile, I will advertise my merch, which is on my head. See, I thought, Vic, you were going to turn up with your beanie on, and that we'd be Beanie Brothers.
The Beanie Bros.
But you've gone up in the world in when it comes to hats. So
I call this my Michael Ackerfeld cap.
that's it. Cool, looking lovely. So
Yeah, well, thank you.
yeah,
Go buy
available
the merch.
exactly. Cool. Is this the Phoenix
This is the Phoenix,
up and
yes.
loaded?
The behemoth.
So how should we approach this one? I'll give
Yeah,
you I'll give you a little introduction to where I was coming from,
sure.
because I spoke a little bit earlier about just firing stuff into my MIDI keyboard and not really knowing where I'm going with it, but later on I'd make little fixes, and I just latched upon this melody which was unashamedly Coldplay, perhaps referencing Anathema a little bit as well. There's that kind of clocks, the feel of the song Clocks from Coldplay, really. So that's what was driving this melody, and I built this 11-minute song around it in the end. So I think it's really the second half of the song that people are going to be interested in hearing when it comes to your sound design, maybe.
Yeah.
But do correct me if I'm missing something special from early on, because it's a steady guitar song for the first half,
Right.
and then it takes on a new direction, and this is where it all comes to life. So I think let's just play people a little bit. Unfortunately, we may get like slight interference because I don't have the fastest internet speed
Sure.
going, but it's been mostly okay up to now. So yeah, let's just give people like, I don't know, 45 seconds of something cool from this
Sure.
song. Yeah.
Should I play the album version, or do you want to hear the kind of?
Oh, let's just give them the album version. Yeah.
I figure if you're gonna have your first introduction to a song,
Yeah.
it should probably be the final version.
There'll obviously
All
be
right.
people watching this after the albums come out, and so this is
Right.
this will be a good chat for that time period as well. But for people watching before Friday, this is for you.
Let's hear it.
Oh, that's a proper teaser.
Right before the vocals.
Yeah, that's a good place to land. So, yeah, where that piece started, you're actually singing on there, Vic, as well.
I am, yeah. As is my girlfriend and a bunch of
exactly.
other people.
Yeah, a whole bunch of us. Yeah. I mean, again, with this kind of project, I would have loved to have actually got 20 people in the room, but it all tracked kind of individually. It's one of those bittersweet things that you have to live with. But I think it sounds cool.
I think there's also something cool about creating a sense of real community through digital collaboration.
Yeah.
That I think speaks a lot to what's possible now, not just in music, but in life as well.
Totally.
That, we can achieve a lot of great sense of togetherness through, being thousands of miles apart. And that beautiful a cappella section in the middle is like a sonic testament to that, which I love.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's a lot to take in of your first listener, but there's quite a few layers to dissect.
Yeah.
On this track.
There are a lot of tracks.
I mean, let's focus on keyboard. Yeah, let's focus on keyboards and piano and synth and and orchestration primarily. And let's have a little deep dive into what's behind that. So you can obviously hear the Coldplay Clocks reference on the lead piano part, and that's what came first to me in my head. Right in this was that lick. So maybe isolate the piano first and then build it up from there, I guess.
Yeah, let's build into it because actually I did my own tribute to Coldplay. In this part where I actually unleashed a little "Viva la Vida" in the string arrangement, which I was personally quite proud of. So we'll build into the piano hook this way.
I'm very happy about that. I'm learning things about my own album.
It's learning for all of us.
Amen.
Pause one moment. I think I need to unfreeze.
No problem.
I don't know why that would help. Feels like it should do the opposite.
Yeah. So as you can see, there's a lot of tracks. Yeah, it's not quite Jacob Collier level, but it's close. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
I mean, his sessions are just
like 700 track sessions.
I think he has a T-shirt actually of his. I think he uses Logic, or maybe not. Maybe it's Pro Tools.
Yeah, he uses Logic for sure.
And it's just all the tracks, just crazy. I really want that shirt.
Man, you've really done something special with your career when you can make a T-shirt of your DAW session, and people will buy it.
Yeah.
Like, man, what a thing to aspire to.
For sure.
All right, so hopefully things will boot pretty quickly. That wasn't bad. All right, so here's the little Viva la Vida thing.
Amazing. I mean, I obviously had heard that, but I didn't make the link to the reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
There are a lot of juicy things in this song, and it's it's to the point where a lot of things recede into the background, as they should, because the song vocals and the lyrics are so important that you don't want people's experience of that to be compromised by listen to the twiddly mellotron kind of thing. That's not as important, but like we said in Catcher in the Rye, all these little things have an aggregate effect that make the song sound what they are. So let's listen to this hook first without the orchestra, because that will cover it up.
Yeah. Amazing. So that was all pretty faithful to what I demoed, wasn't it? Give or take. I think notationally that was.
Yeah, the piano parts I played verbatim, except I
Right.
added. I think I don't know if you had the lower chords to support it. Maybe you did.
Possibly not.
But at any rate, the hook was verbatim from
Yeah.
what you did, and I think I have the transcription for that somewhere as well. That's the wrong song.
It's catchy, yeah.
There
Yeah,
it is.
cool. Awesome.
So I have the hook there, and like I said, that's verbatim from what you did.
Hmm.
And this is kind of blown up into that 5-voice string notation that I mentioned before. But
Right.
yeah, note for note what you did. And then I just kind of expanded it out a bit with the orchestra.
Hmm.
The strings double it with that kind of staccato string thing that is very surging and has a lot of forward momentum.
Hmm.
And I did this classic thing that I love doing where I take a bell sound and I put it on the piano. Like I just copy the MIDI over.
Okay, gotcha.
So I just do something like this.
Let's hear that. Nice.
It's like on its own, it's a very almost power metal-y thing.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, when I do power metal sessions, I use that patch all the time. But it blended in with the piano. Going back to Springsteen, there's a lot of very tasteful bell stuff. Like if you think about the main hook of Born to Run, do 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 do, beautiful
true.
bell
That's true.
on that. I'm not entirely sure what was used in 1975 for that, but it sounds amazing, and I love that sound of the bell on the piano.
Yeah.
When I first heard this hook, I thought, man, that's just screaming for a nice bell.
Is it a timbre thing or is it a frequency thing that's satisfying there?
It's both. I mean, it expands it. These bells have so much high end, and I think I probably even boost the high end.
Just satisfies that. I don't know which what part of the frequency that's covering, but
yeah, and also these bells are a little chorusy. There's some modulation on there too, so it just adds some motion. I mean, I think I have just a glockenspiel doing the same thing.
yeah.
Which does add something, but the
does.
synth bells add a lot. I mean, it's a huge part.
Very cool.
Mellotrons, synths, all the usual suspects, organs. I really used a very traditional palette when we did a lot of our stuff, except when I didn't, because there's some stuff that's really weird. But for this kind of sound, I really liked the opportunity to use organs and mellotrons and very 80s synths to kind of drive things, because we were talking about all kinds of stuff like Journey and all these kind of the era synths where you achieve this massive anthemic sound with, a very analog, almost simple sounding synthesizer just playing the right thing. So I was very inspired by that to bring that in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's a really important influence, actually. To certainly your part of the sonic palette. So I'm glad you made those choices in the end. Yeah, and it really fills out the sound nicely.
Really important. It was really important. Even when we have this kind of synth, the prog moment in the middle. I don't know if you want to spoil everything on this song, so maybe I shouldn't play that.
You can, you can roll it. That's fine.
It's fun.
It will whet people's
this is
appetites.
A very kind of like thing to me.
Yeah, this is my kind of tribute to. It's a bit of a cinema show kind of from Genesis, that kind of influence. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, let's listen to this wildness.
think I got those kind of ideas from some of Neil Morse's work, and
Yeah, yeah.
I was demoing. I'm talking about the organ,
Hmm.
the very fast notes underneath, and yeah, when I was demoing that idea I was like, oh, no way am I going to be able to play this live. I need someone who can actually play to kind of cover this. But yeah, that's it's a nice section. I really like this part. Yeah.
It adds some spice
Yeah.
that I think is nice because it doesn't detract from the overall feel of the song. It's not one of those progressive moments that ruins your immersion and you're in this beautiful spiritual vibe and all of a sudden you're noodling away. Somehow it's complementary
Yeah,
to the feel of the
it's
song in a nice way.
it's a journey to get there. Anyway,
And it's joyful, I
so
think.
do you want to go over the other layers that we haven't sort of touched upon yet from
Yeah.
the previous section we were looking at?
Yeah, let's see
That
let's see
finale.
what else is going on.
Just to unravel
There's
the mysteries.
a lot going on in this.
It's just really interesting seeing how you work, and I think people who follow your work might be interested to see
Yeah.
how you've broken this
Absolutely.
down. Yeah, it's really interesting for
So
me.
I started with the string part and the piano part because the piano part we always had. That was always going to be there.
Yeah.
And I wanted the orchestra to back it up and just take kind of the same ideas but make them fatter. So we've got this piano.
Did I
and then
give you
I'll
many?
add in elements one by one.
Did I give you much orchestral reference in my demos? I can't.
No,
I
no, I
I
don't think
forget.
so.
I don't think I did. Yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, this
I
would have
don't
been.
know. Let's see. There was a demo strings
Oh, so
here,
maybe there was something filling it. Yeah.
but it's not even in this big epic part.
Okay.
So I
But yeah,
guess in the epic part that was a Shankar original.
Yes, this was needed. Absolutely great choice.
So let's see what we got here.
Lovely. Yeah.
Those counter melodies are really important because
Yeah.
even if you don't hear every counter melody, it adds texture and motion and a sense of space and size that otherwise you don't get if you're just playing chords to support. So whenever I'm teaching orchestration or giving people tips, the first thing I tell them is don't be afraid of counter melodies. I mean, you have to pick them so that they don't clutter things, but some counter melodies are very important because if a real orchestral arranger who has written for full orchestra is writing a part, they're not just writing chords. There's always some kind of counter activity, which is what makes it work. So it instantly feels more real to hear those counterparts.
Yeah, I mean, deconstruct, does that come back to how you're using your left hand on the piano, for example?
Yeah, exactly. And if you look at this, and if you pretend this is a piano score, if I was studying this in classical piano ways and I saw something like this, my inclination would immediately be, if I'm playing that with my thumb on the left hand, to bring out this voice, the voice leading that's on the top.
Right.
Because when I look at this, I see potential for a secondary melody.
Yeah, there's more movement. Yeah.
If you just follow this top voice. So I remember when I was studying classical piano, my piano teacher was very particular about how there's not just melody and chords, especially playing classical music. That's not so prevalent. It's more that there's melody and then there's chords and then there's counter melodies and all these opportunities to bring out different things.
Yeah.
And I just took that and I put that into a rock arrangement, and the same principle is there. You have all these opportunities to make something special.
Incredible. Oh, it's incredibly done. It's really fattened up the sound. It's a big epic song. It was really required of you probably heard my demo and went, well, this needs to be elevated somewhat. I
It was
guess
more
you
than
I,
I
I
wanted
guess you
to, really.
heard the potential there, and it needed the extra lines. Yeah.
I heard what I actually did this on pretty much every song, is that I pretty
Mm.
much approached every song as if it was my song.
Yeah.
If I had done the bass tracks, what would I do to take this to the next level?
Yeah.
And pretty much in every case, I was able to follow that instinct, and I don't think that you had to, slap my wrist too often and tell me that, if you've done something that's totally betraying your vision,
Oh
because
no,
I think
absolutely.
we were able to come together in that way.
Yeah. I mean, without being a cop out, I like to give musicians I work with the space to express as
Right.
well. I mean, I wasn't writing stuff strictly for you to play verbatim. It was please follow these ideas, these guidelines, but by all means put in your spice. And each member of the band hired fulfilled that. We'll talk to Nathan on another episode, but his bass parts, he said he had always had two versions. He would send me one that was actually verbatim to my bass parts, and then one where it was called I don't know, with embellishments or something, and it was the same, but then he would throw in all these extra little licks, and I was like, well, every time pretty much I was just let's go with embellishments, because it was always better. Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to the Apologist when I was getting ready for this, and
Yeah.
I was listening to some of the fast bass runs that he threw in there. Just insane.
Absolute killer. Yeah. So without going on and on and on too long, did you want to dig up that song? I think you mentioned you might have wanted to touch on it.
Yeah, either Apologist or Words. I mean, they both cover a very different palette than this. Maybe Words is cooler because people have heard it.
Okay, let's pick that one then, and we'll let the anticipation continue for Friday. Because the Apologist is one that's cropping up on reviews as one that's resonating with people who've heard it.
So if you're watching this and you haven't heard the album yet, that's a track to look forward to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Cool. Yeah, man. Meanwhile, while he's doing this, I'm gonna plug Silent Skies featuring Vic himself and Thomas England. I've just announced a new record, February the 4th. It's coming out, right? Yeah, that's 3 days before my birthday. I don't know why I had to count. But I've had the great pleasure of hearing this already, and it's phenomenal. So do check out the existing album Satellites, because it's amazing, really emotive. One of the reasons why I picked Vic to be on my album as well. Like, just playing is phenomenal, and obviously Thomas's vocals are next to none. So looking forward to that record, man. Congrats on getting the single out the other day and starting the buzz train.
Yeah, might as well get the hype train rolling.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I mean, your feedback when we had first finished it and we were soliciting opinions on songs to pick for singles and everything. It was really invaluable feedback, but also just cool to hear what you had to say, because both Tom and I respect, what you do, and we know that you have a great ear for, this kind of music, things that are very emotive, and you also have a great ear for pop as well, and that's part of our equation. So
yeah, I appreciate you trusting me with that and giving me the access. Yeah, because it's it was very difficult to pick favorites, because they're all very strong, and there's a lot of, it's very rich in melody throughout. So yeah, congrats to you guys.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate that. So here I have Words for something completely different.
So Kareem and I looked at this a little bit on our episode, just from a sort of mix point of view and how things were layered, but might be interesting to approach it from maybe how you came to choose some of the sounds you chose, and maybe the gear you used. Let's have a look.
Yeah. So we can just start from the beginning, because there's some wacky stuff.
Oh yeah, I gave you a rough sort of intro, and I think you created your own in the end, didn't you? That was the.
Did you have the telephone
I
thing?
didn't. No, that was you. That was your idea.
I can't
Uh,
figure out why I
yeah.
did that. I mean, it's really cool, but I don't know what would have possessed me to do that.
Oh well, it was meant to be.
Yeah, clearly. So I programmed these 80s drums, and I guess when I listened to the record, they were pretty heavily filtered compared to what I
Yeah.
did here. Like a lot of very
Oh, that would
hefty
have.
high pass,
Yeah, that would have been my choice. I think just to
which is the right choice.
give it
This
that
is pretty-
impact when Seaman kicks in with his live drums. I really wanted to sort of tease that, you know.
without a doubt. But I have a glitchy kit and an 80s kit that come together to make this.
Very nice.
That one goes hard. That's a pretty pretty heavy drum sound there. And you just put them together, and
so
then-
those are in unison, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. They just stack on top of each other. And I guess based on the fact that they're two separate buses, I must have sent them to Kareem separate. And he created his own blend of them. So I have mine at the same level, but he may not have done that. I'm not entirely sure. And then we have these phones. I think I went on like freesounds.org and I typed in phone sounds or something.
Yeah.
And I just got these wave files of phones.
I mean, probably without you knowing, but it was really relevant to sort of what the lyrics were doing, and it was about heated conversations, and so
Yeah.
it works. I mean, when I heard it, I had to sit on it for a bit, but I thought it was a
Don't
nice.
blame me for needing to sit on it.
But when I started hearing it without them in, I was kind of missing them. So yeah, it ended up being a keeper.
I guess I was just thinking of ways to make the arrangement a little quirky without, being stupid. Although maybe some people might think it's stupid, but to me, it's just like it's quirky. It's not something you expect, and I like doing the unexpected sometimes. And when I'm working with the client, normally I'll do something that's a little bit off to left field.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't like it, it's easy to delete, but it's harder to add things and make them more and more interesting.
Right.
It's much easier to start with a very interesting arrangement and trim it back if you need to.
Yeah.
Which
Well,
I guess is exactly what we did.
This song and this album really was all about fun. I mean, there are some deeper themes lyrically, but musically, it needed to be a fun project and nothing too grueling, you know. And so this added the fun element for me.
Yeah, so these are, like I said, just free sound samples of different phones things that I distorted, kind of put some lo-fi stuff on, cut them up pretty aggressively. They're going to sound great on oscillation, I promise you that.
There you go.
I'm a particularly big fan of that slowed down effect there at the end.
Do you listen to?
I saw Jacob Collier do that a lot with his tracks in Logic.
Right.
You listen to a lot of his phrases and sounds. They go meow at the end.
Okay, yeah.
And I learned from watching that it's really easy in Logic to just do slow down here in the corner.
Do you listen to much stuff like Aphex Twin or Square Pusher? That kind of stuff?
For sure, especially Square Pusher.
Yeah, I think I was trying to do something like this on the vocal channel originally. I think in my demo you might have heard some of that stuff actually, and I ended up not being really able to create it as I had it in my head. So we did a very tame version of it in the end, just with with delay, you know. But I don't know if maybe you even have it there. It was some pretty wild sort of ideas. Cutting up the vocals in that way. So.
Yeah, I got a demo vocals track. Let's see what this sounds like.
But it was pretty bad. I gotta warn you. Check. Oh, that stayed in the final one.
It's so deep I can't see it.
So that was just delay. And then...
Grip tight, you just don't feel it.
See me getting a bit more EDM here. Yeah.
Far we're so much closer. That night replays over and over.
There you go. That's maybe I'll do a special edition one day with that.
I actually quite like it, to be honest.
It's all right. Yeah, it was just me really having fun at home here creating this stuff.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
We've done a bit of that in Haken, like sporadically, but
yeah, of course.
But yeah, I've never done it myself, so I just want to have fun with the tools, you know.
Yeah. So synth-wise, there's actually a fair bit going on for a song that probably sounds like there's a lot of just guitar, bass, and drums.
Yeah,
but
it's true.
There's a lot of synths kind of under the hood.
Yeah, we unmasked a lot of that the other day. Let's hear it again because it's really interesting.
Sure. So I doubled all the essential bass line with this very almost like mid-'80s Madonna bass line. Actually, that's actually exactly what I was thinking of. Something like this.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, I think that was a line you came up with, the top line there, and then the stabs were so important to me. They just had to.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's just something about them. It just when I heard this song, I was like, man, I just want to hear this
exactly.
super Duran Duran-y kind of thing.
Oh, totally
up there. And I have a bunch of arps that run through both verses. We'll skip to this one because it's wilder. But I think I probably sent them to Kareem as just FX.
Right.
I suspect. But I have this is the main one.
Nice. And that's all layered
Pretty
together.
weird.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just make...
Oh, it's just insane when you break it down. Yeah, well, I think we joked the other day about this being a potential kind of remix album in here somewhere. But all those different rhythmic patterns going on simultaneously, and yet they all work so well. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean they syncopate and they interweave together and the right way it needed to, because it just the riff is just all eighth notes,
right?
You know, and the drums are all eighth notes, but these ways that they kind of dance in between the beats, I think is really important.
Yeah. Now you're listening out for them. It's insane.
Yeah. And then I forgot until I opened the session back up that I had this guy as well. There's your remix album right there.
It's beautiful, and they all have a function. It's crazy. Yeah, really.
Yeah, it's like they're all just poking little holes in the beat.
Yeah, it's impressive stuff. I think I think this and Violet, I'd come up with my own sort of patterns, and I think for the most part in Violet, some of that stuff I did was kept in, maybe. But
I think I wanted you to, yeah.
But I know you've felt very strongly about approaching this one yourself, and I'm so glad you did in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have the demo ones.
Yeah, I think it was. They're doing
To be
something.
honest, also really cool.
They're doing something similar, but not as clever.
And the thing with mine is that it's almost as simple as just really short release on the ADSR of all them, so that everything is really staccato and really kind of chopped up sounding.
Oh, totally. And it needed that attention to detail. Really. I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just coming up with a vibe, you know. But
yeah, I mean, I took it and ran with it, so it was still important.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Hey, I'm just a singer, all right?
I don't know if that's in the mix. Did you guys keep that?
You know what? I think it is in there, but like with all these things, when there's so much going on, sometimes some things are so buried, and they might be buried in the right channel somewhere. Let's see. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure we kept all of it. Honestly.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I did it on some songs, and Apologist is another one where I would take the delay and reverb and print it, and then do pitch things to it. In this case, I'm slowing it down to create this.
Yeah.
Super strange, but
yes,
I mean, it adds something, I think.
It does, yeah. I think it's in there, but when you don't hear it isolated, you do kind of miss the actual intricacies of that. So it's really nice to hear this. Yeah.
Chorus is fairly straightforward. It's an organ and synth thing. But as I was saying, that there's these very 80s pads going on in pretty much all of the choruses on the entire record. They all sound something pretty much like this. There we are.
Yeah, and it totally complements what the brass is doing at that point. And
exactly, which is cool because there is the real brass arrangement along with the synthetic brass. And it all works together in a really nice way. And I've actually very rarely been fortunate enough to complement real brass arrangements. So it's actually a really cool opportunity, and the final sound with all the real brass is so cool. It's so special.
Yeah.
Like, it's so unexpected, like on this song where you expect a shredding guitar solo and all of a sudden these horns come in. It's like such a joyous moment.
I agree. Yeah, it works really well. I guess the last point to talk about maybe is in the 80s section where it just goes full on 90125 yes.
Yes, the interlude.
The interlude. Because this was completely intentional to sound that way, and I wanted as much 80s influence in this part as possible.
Right.
Down to the guitar sounds and the way I played, and then we're talking keyboards here. You'll hear, I think, the stabbing sound. Yeah, there we go. There you go. That's I love that. Taken straight from a bad 80s movie, but with the best soundtracks. They all have the best soundtracks.
They really do. They really do. I mean, there's something amazing about it because it's joyous and euphoric, but there's also a fair bit of intricacy that goes into making something like that. So it's really cool to be able to do that kind of stuff because you're able to tap into an era that people remember very fondly. And because the production of the record in general has this kind of modern directness to it, it's like both the eras can coexist in a really beautiful way that I guess is also a big part of why Affinity is so great.
Yeah, and none of these things are done gimmicky like these. I'm an 80s child, and I grew up with those
Mm-hmm.
soundtracks and movies, and they really do just homage a time that I remember fondly. And one particular movie, Flight of the Navigator, has, I think, Alan Silvestri's one of his earlier scores, all done on synth, and just like one of my favourite soundtracks to this day. You know, it's just, and I think I wanted to capture that in this section. Really, that was the intention. So you did that for me, yeah. I mean, all those sounds you used there, the various organs, and certainly those stabs are iconic.
I love that. I think there's
signifiers of that time, you know.
Some great ones and feelings as well.
Exactly.
That same kind of stabby vibe. I think I might have been closely listening to some early 80s Journey when I did that, because I really wanted to hear how did Jonathan Cain create this massive effect, while really, I mean, if you watch live videos, I mean, there's really only one thing going on at a time, but it sounds so huge, and a lot of that is these kind of percussive quarter note things. Yeah. So I love that.
Oh, it's perfect reference to draw upon.
I know, and that's a huge part of my musical upbringing as well. I listened to classic rock and 70s and 80s music well before I was listening to any metal. So, you know, it's kind of like coming home in a weird way, and I never really get to do this in a lot of my own music, and the sessions I do, you know, a lot of people, they don't want this kind of stuff. So it was really cool that, you know, not only was I allowed to do it, but you wanted me to do it. It's like, what a privilege.
There you go. Well, hey man, if there's ever a second album coming your way, then you'll be my first call.
It would be my honor, man. Truly.
Cool, man. I don't want to take too much more of your time, but do you want to just run through very briefly what keyboards you're using on this record?
Sure. Yeah.
Then we can wrap it up, I guess.
So, excluding the real piano stuff, which we've already talked about, and I mentioned in the orchestral score that I was using certain libraries from Cinesamples, East West, and Hans Zimmer, Spitfire Hans Zimmer. For all the string stuff, that's everything that you hear on the album. It's all a blend of those three, with various mixed levels. Sometimes there's more of the solo sound if it has to sound more intimate. Yeah. Sometimes there's more of the Hans Zimmer one if it's got to sound bigger and more anthemic, but it's always those three working in concert. Organ-wise, as I mentioned before, I'm all about the Arturia stuff. And
is that an Arturia behind you? Is that what have you got behind you up there on the top?
That's a Moog.
Oh, okay. So couldn't quite see it.
Sub 37, which actually I didn't have at the time of doing this. So we listened to that beautiful part in the Phoenix with that really total, iconic Moog sound, which is actually from Omnisphere.
Right. Which
I use a lot of. There's a fair bit of Omnisphere, like all these. I'm sure at least some of these arpeggios are from Omnisphere. Well, maybe not. But I did a lot of things in the box for this. And part of the reason was that I started working on the record in my home studio, my old home studio. And then midway through, I went up to my parents' home in Cleveland, Ohio to do the piano. And while I was doing that, I was recording the keyboards for the other parts, and I was doing the string arrangements as well. So I was on the go working on a MacBook, which actually stopped working mid-session. That was fun.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I might have mentioned it. That my trusty workhorse computer that I used for 8 years just completely died on me. Like, it just wouldn't open anymore.
Yeah, I think I do recall that. Yeah, I think it might have set you back a week or so, didn't it?
I got an emergency MacBook Pro, and I stayed up all night getting all the software installed and everything. But because I was so on the go and I was inevitably between machines, I had to do a lot of stuff in the box. And maybe it would have been nice to have brought a little bit more of an analog flair on some of these things. But, I do think that there is a certain amount of analog feel that somehow is still imparted into the music.
Yeah.
You know, software is so good these days, and songs like this with all these sound design things and the arpeggios, it is actually fairly modern. A lot of those arpeggios are kind of from the EDM school, so it's totally fitting to have all these digital synthesizers playing a big role. What else is important? Arturia.
Mm-hmm.
I use the Arturia matrix, which is an Oberheim matrix, which is funny because I have the real Oberheim matrix right there in my rack from like 1987 or something. But I don't know. I think I like the Arturia one better for some weird reason. It
That's
just
interesting.
Sounds fuller to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. Massive, which I don't really use much anymore, but I think I had just gotten an update for it when I did this record. So I was really kind of throwing stuff at the wall, seeing what would stick. For a lot of this sound design, it's like, okay, let's pick a patch and start throwing things on it, and then you end up with channel strips that look like this.
Oh, it's a
Just to
absolute privilege that I was your blank canvas on that on that respect.
And the funny thing is, I actually can show you this. It's kind of funny that some sounds that I built for, this record, I was so happy with it. I just saved them. I have like organ rock parentheses Ross.
Yes.
Piano soft Ross. Because I was so happy with some of the sounds that I created that I was like, this is going to be a part of my workflow from now on. Especially that organ. I was really happy with that.
Wicked. I'm officially in Vic's library. Yes. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, dude, I think we'll wrap it up. I really appreciate your time going through this stuff. I'm forever grateful for your contribution on this record, and from what I can tell, it's really resonating with people, and you were a big part of that. So yeah, from the bottom of my heart, man, like, thank you so much for.
It was my pleasure, dude. And seriously, I think that it's resonating with people because I think they can tell that it was made by a bunch of dudes who really enjoyed it. It doesn't sound like a chore when you listen to it on anyone's part. It sounds like people were having fun.
Yeah.
And I think when you're playing music that, at least musically, is so much about having fun, you can't play it with the clinical mindset. And it's really cool to me that people pick up on that, because that was a really important part of it for me, and I know it was for you too.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, we'd worked on Virus previously, and it was a lot of fun writing, but it was quite a grueling recording process. So it was nice to step away from do something that was just completely on the back of that, and doing something really fun, especially in pandemic times when everything was just doom and gloom, and to turn it into something positive, which was what it was all about.
I had a similar experience actually, because I just finished keyboards for Redemption 8 right before I started working on this project. And while I love working on Redemption, it's great, but it's such a different style, and the music is often so heavy and dark that, it's like a breath of fresh air, both the music and the workflow to dive into this. Because the first thing I did was Be the One. And it's how different from thrashy prog metal can you get than Dua Lipa?
That's brilliant. Yeah, man.
I love that.
Cool. So, obviously, Redemption, you mentioned. You got any more plans with these guys?
The 8th album is currently being mixed right now by King Jacob Hansen, and it should be coming out, I suspect, middle of next year. I'm not entirely sure. I'm kind of on the periphery of the business side of all that.
Yeah.
But it is being mixed, so it shouldn't take too long. Redemption, Silent Skies, as you already mentioned.
Yeah. And obviously, I know you from
other records, but I don't remember them.
The Lux Terminus, The Courage to Be, is a fantastic instrumental album. Although there is a vocal song on there, isn't there? There's Annika's on there.
Yeah.
Tracks as well.
And I think I like the idea of making instrumental music with a little bit of vocal spice, because the voice is an instrument too, So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's a superb album if you haven't heard it from the master here. So yeah, thanks once again. I think we'll land there and let you get back to.
Thank you for having me.
Let you get back to your day, but I really appreciate it. So yeah, you'll be listening now with an attentive ear to Vic's parts on my album. November 19th is the street dates, so I'm looking forward to that this Friday.
Go buy it.
Please do. All right, man. Thanks again, and take care. Lots of love to you and your family.
Yeah,
and,
you as well, man.
Let's speak again soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Cheers, buddy.
Take care.